Prepared, so if I go quiet, just say get off. You've had enough.
Get off! Get off! Sorry!
Well, what I discuss is the varying forms of communication with ghosts and spirits. There are different forms. One of the most common misconceptions is that somebody tries to communicate with a ghost or a spirit and they assume they know all the answers. Well, they don't. If somebody's here 1 minute and they die the next, they're exactly the same. They don't change. If they're a religious person, they will still have those belief systems. It really is that sort of clear cut, so nothing really changes. So if you, obvious one that springs to mind is Ouija boards. And the danger lies in there that you've got a spirit that's willing to communicate, but you don't know if they're going to mislead you. If you've got a negative entity or somebody that's mischievous, they will tell you what you want to hear, which will mislead you. And quite often people will dabble with these things and ask the wrong questions, like, am I going to die, or am I going to do this? And they say, yes. And everybody's like, my God. So it's best to think about questions that you're asking. You have to be able to trust the communicator that you're communicating with. And as in most of the cases, the spirits that are about, they're not mediums and they're not experienced at communicating. They will do the best they can. If they can find a way of communicating with you, they will. And the other thing you have to watch for is you don't always get a human spirit. There are nature spirits, there are thought forms, there are elementals. There are other creatures there that are quite happy to come and play. I've had some experience of talking with elementals and nature spirits. They're very childlike and they can't really answer your questions because everybody's very excited. They think, great, the table's moved, something's moved. And they tend to believe everything, and it's important that you have a common sense approach to it. Think about the answers you're getting, think about the questions you're getting. You know, does it make sense? You know, are you being misled? Is something really, does it ring true? And quite often go with your gut instinct. It's always best if you're going to do that kind of communication to have an experienced medium, but I know that everybody's got to start somewhere. Now, communicating with spirit or spirit guides is completely different. They're experienced, they've had training, they know what they're talking about, and in a good circle, you will get a good, reliable communication. Last one. Okay. Where was I? Right. Yes, communicating with the guides. You have to learn to work with them, trust them, and it's a good thing to question what you're getting. Don't accept everything at the first value. Now, I've got 15, 16 years experience of table wrapping, and what you do is you have a table, whatever the object is, and the table moves. It will take off, it will rotate. I've seen them actually leave a pub and go out the door. So it does happen. I did some of this last night and the table did move, and if the opportunity arises tonight, then we might try and see if it'll do it again. But we're going to do this maybe in an area that's active, that somebody will actually communicate. Now, I've asked one of the cameramen to put a light under the table and cameras all around to verify there's no trickery, no kicking it, or rods or anything else. Again, depends on the people, but anybody's welcome to come and put their hands on and feel the vibrations. But the best way of communicating or getting a reliable communication is a medium that's experienced and can switch out their own thinking, because it's very easy to will the answer, and it's very much like we were talking about poltergeists. Your subconscious is willing the answer to be positive in your favour or something along those lines, and you can actually move the table yourself, and you have to be very careful. It takes many years of experience, and sometimes it doesn't move. And I've had it where they said, put a 2p piece on the table, and the thing's gone spinning around. And I'll say, do me a square, and it'll shoot around the table. Sometimes you get good things, sometimes you get bad things. It just depends. It's a bit of a luck of the draw, but it does depend on who you're with, and it helps if you've got a medium that's a physical medium. The highest form of communication is trance, and ideally that trance situation will be in strictly controlled situations. You as a personality step out from your body and the spirit will come in. They will take control of your hands, you're speaking, you'll probably notice the face will change, or even the vocal will change. It'll either go deeper or it might go lighter, it just depends. But that is the best form of communication. And usually those are held in a closed circle. And they're very good, and you need to have the sitters who sit regularly to get the energies right and get the balance right. And again, it's this trust relationship. And you need to know that the person you're communicating with knows what they're talking about. Because it's very easy to say, well, what's happening in America? Is there going to be an earthquake and all the rest of it? People assume a hell of a lot with communications with spirit, and it pays you just to have a think about it, and it depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to a master, then in theory they should know all the answers. But there's also a question of you're not allowed to know some things, so there's not always an answer. So there's the basic form of communication. If you try and communicate with a ghost tonight, it's the same thing. You've got to try and be a little bit careful. They don't know the answers. They're no different than me and you. They're just literally, if they were standing right here next to me, they would see the same as I am, although you won't see them. They're no wiser. You don't suddenly go into the spirit world knowing all the answers, become super wise, and you certainly don't sit there playing a harp on a fluffy cloud. You know, life is fairly continual. It's a dimensional shift really, and life just continues. You shift from one dimension to the next, and maybe you can come back again. So that's the part on communication. Now the other thing I was listening to was about orbs. Now this has got to be the most controversial subject, widely discussed, and many theories. Now I do believe a lot of orb photographs are camera fault or dust, but there are genuine ones. Now the important thing for me is I can see them myself. I don't need a camera. I can see them all shoot past. I can say to the cameraman, now take a picture there will be an orb. If I see a spirit person there, I'll say take a photograph, and there will appear an orb. Now I've had it on video camera, where this was at the Red Lion at Avebury. I said, she's walking in front of me and she's coming to this side of me. And there you can see this ball of light moving round as I'm saying it. So, what is an orb? It's basically our very life force. It's the energy that's within all of us. If you take that life force out, you're no more. Your body will die. So this ball of light and this energy, when they go into spirit, is not encased in this heavy body of clay. So it's more visible, and it sort of shoots into the dimension. Now, I'm not the only person to see these orbs by eye. Many people that I know, many mediums, many investigators, and the important thing is you can see them at the same time. So if I say, did you see that? And they say, yeah, it went that way across the thing. So it's not just a question of somebody's eyes playing tricks. And orbs do vary in colour. Generally they're white, silver. And I've seen red orbs, gold orbs, and I've even seen the odd black one. And people say, well, what's a black one? And a lady that I worked with is of the opinion that they're an unhappy spirit and they're in need of help. Now, we could speculate on the colours, but I tend to think it might be likened to the aura, that when you're happy and you're glowing, your aura is bright and it's a lovely colour. If you're down or if you're not well, that colour will change. So I think it's pretty much along those lines. That's my theory. That's not how it may be in reality. So that's the view on orbs. So what I would say is talking about if anybody's got any questions, but also, has anybody tonight felt anything while they've been walking around? Have you sensed anything? Any cold drops? Any feeling of being touched? Anybody pick anything up? The what, sorry? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Was that in second floor, and there's like one of the turrets in a corner of the room?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I felt very, very sick in there, and I think this is basically somebody was murdered in there. This nausea that you feel, I've associated it and got factual information that I've picked up looking through the papers that there has been a murder in that room and that spot. So from experience, I would say that those feelings, it might not always be the case, but certainly in all the cases I've experienced, it usually indicates there's been a violent death. And if somebody's been terrified, quite often your legs will go. If someone's been chased, pinned down, held by the throat, quite often your legs feel very sort of weak. You're picking up this residual energy. Everything that happens is recorded in the etheric. So there is recordings there completely. And if you can tune into that, you can see everything. And I've also experienced time slips where I've seen into a time zone and things are carrying on. And one of those was at my house in my back garden. This man stood there, and it was 1746, I believe, and I spoke to him, and he was very surprised at me wearing the clothes I was. I had a brief chat with him, and I said, are you aware of what year this is? And when I told him, he looked at me like I was crazy. Now, this drifted on, and he went off mumbling to himself, and all I could see when I was looking was fields. And in the last 2 months, I found a map of 1746. And there on the map at the back of my house was a trade route. The old original trade route. So it confirmed what I saw was a time slip. But I didn't feel it was a ghost. It's the same thing as a vibration. It's like a musical note. Each vibration is different. And this vibration of this time slip, again, felt completely different. And it's only through experience, really, that you begin to learn which is which. The oddest ones, of course, are vortexes. You stand into them, it's just like going into water.
These time slips only appear to be, I think, seeing the past.
Yeah.
Is there an example of people who saw the future? And if not, is there an explanation?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because that guy saw you, and you were the future, so logically,
yes, I suppose that's answered the question, really. Then I suppose it is possible. I mean, certainly from my mediumistic skills, I can see into the future and, with some things, not all, see what's going to happen and tell somebody that they may have 2 children, they're both going to be girls, they're going to stay in their house, and it happens. So there is a theory that the past, present, and the future all exist simultaneously. It's a bit hard to get your head round. So, anybody else? Yeah. It was what from underneath it? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Right. That's an unusual one. Yeah. I can't really answer that one. It's one of them probably strange things, but certainly there's a nurse up there who has been like a matron. She's in one of the hospital rooms, and I'm hoping later on that she's going to try and come through. She tried coming into me and getting me into trance earlier on, but I was just said no, not at the moment. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Anything else, anybody?
Yeah. Down in this month,
Yeah.
I see the natural cold, freezing. I see French soil cold, pins and needles, in the social legs.
Yeah.
Everything is very strong.
Yeah.
And then I just sort of back on like I shake.
Did you find that in the general area of the cellar or towards the back where the furniture is? Yeah, that's where I felt the energies. There's a male presence down there, a little bit aggressive, and I think he's ready to kick off tonight.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Yeah. Come on out fighting. So it should be interesting. And we shall see. Anything else? Yeah. I've picked up there is quite often your hair being touched is quite frequent with children. Yeah.
I noticed the hair on the back of my neck started
Yeah, yeah, they do. Yeah, yeah, that's typical. Yeah, we'll just have to have a look later. But there's certainly somebody, I can feel somebody pulling in from behind me.
That was me.
And it's you.
Sorry.
But there's certainly something there. But being touched, or if you get like a, say, 12-year-old girl, they like to play with your hair, especially on ladies, not so much on the men, but they tend to, you know, they're playful. You know.
It's like a warm, lovely
Yeah.
sort of gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome gesture.
That's good.
We won't invade in anyone's
Yeah.
personal room.
Yeah. I've only come across one negative here so far. The rest of them seem... No. No, there are some areas up there I'm like really... Ugh.
But when we went downstairs, I didn't like downstairs.
No.
I feel quite
Yeah.
a lot of energy down there and
It's surprising.
a bit of vibration down there.
It's surprisingly common in cellars. Weird things happen, especially like in the early part of the war where soldiers would have had meetings or traipsed through, and I find this quite common in pubs. You go into the cellars and you think, how did they get in here? You know, it's a bit like that. But there seems to be all the investigations, there does seem a common kind of thread. Most of the female ghosts are called Mary, and most of the fellas are called George. So it's nice when you do actually get some that have got a different name. And the most exciting thing, of course, is when somebody, a historian, then says, yes, that's their name. And I got a guy in the Derby jail, whose name was John Fredericks. Now, there's no way I could have known that was his name, but he's actually recorded, but it's not on public information. And I said that he'd stolen a shire horse, and it's recorded that he was hung for stealing a shire horse. So when you get that right, it's very exciting.
We just done an investigation in Amersham, Crown Inn,
Yeah.
and we were investigating one of the rooms, and it came up that it had been used as a courtroom,
Yes. Yeah.
and there wasn't any real information on the internet or anything. It wasn't until we went back
Yeah.
and found in the census, the 1849 census,
Yeah.
and we started really looking into history, that the fact had been used as a courtroom
Yeah.
while the market hall was being built.
Yeah.
So that was proof to us that our mediums
Yeah.
had linked in with energy
Yeah.
and brought that information forward.
It's very exciting when you get it. I typically get 80% plus, so that's not too bad. So it's pretty good. Okay, thank you everybody. If anybody... Right.
You sent them to the theatre.
Yes, I am. Yes. There's a male presence behind here that I picked up earlier. I get the feeling that he wants to communicate later.
Is it Rossini?
I think it's Richard, I think his name is. Old fella, quite thin, with a waistcoat. And I know he's hovering around, and I feel a lot of sadness with him. So I really feel that he's going to be one later that I'm going to move on. If anybody's got any questions over the night, I shall be walking round on the investigation and have fun. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Andrew Garley, thank you very much.